this French team is better than I thought. And guys, I'm French. I'm going to push my propaganda and everything. But like, oh my goodness, this team, guys, do we need to have some serious conversations as to where this French team places all time in terms of like individual quality and what they've done and how good they are? Now, obviously, listen, job's not finished. Le boulot n'est pas terminé. They have not won anything yet. All right. That's what Mbappe said. He was asked in the post-game interviews whether or not this was the best French team he's ever played for. And he said that no, that he's been a part of a French team that has won a World Cup. And he's been part of a French team that was, runners up in a World Cup. And that as things stand currently, this French team has done neither of them. So in his eyes, they're not better. Now, I understand where he's coming from, but I think in terms of talent, you go and you think about it. We had the discussion previously. I think this would have been during the France-Norway game or the Sweden game as to whether or not the front three, front four, if it was the best at a World Cup ever. Olise, Mbappe, and Dembele. Bro, you add 𝙀𝙬 to that, you can add 𝙀𝙊𝘾𝘼𝙎𝙏. Is this not the biggest attacking threat from a team in the history of the World Cup? Like, guys, maybe it's because this is right after the game, and I've not really had time to go and think about it. But guys, I go and I look at this team, club teams included. How high does it rank? As in, I go and I look at this team. In goal, you got 𝙋𝙊𝘾𝘼𝙎, who is potentially, I would argue, the best keeper in the Serie A. You've got a defense of arguably the best center back pairing you could possibly make in the world in Saliba and Upamecano. The one downside you could go and say is maybe at fullback, where you've got Jules Koundé, who's not off the back of a great season. And you've got 𝙀𝙀𝙬, but 𝙀𝙀𝙬 who's been one of the best left backs in the entire Premier League. You go into the midfield, which was a massive, huge cause for concern that many people had with regards to the French national team. And wow, Manu Koné, Adrien Rabiot, and even Tchouaméni when he's been there, nothing to say. And in fact, I'll go and say, I would go and argue that you can make the case that this has been the best midfield in this tournament. You can go and tell me about Portugal, you're talking about Spain. France have won every single one of their games thus far and have scored, and have only conceded 2 goals in this World Cup. We're talking about, how good, for example, France's center-back pairing is, but wow. You need to get past Manu Koné and Adrien Rabiot, and in terms of winning the ball back, they fit the role of French midfielders perfectly. They don't need to go and be there creating and doing all these things and spraying long passes and whatnot, even though they can do that on occasion. But their goal is to get the ball from the center backs, move it on to an Olise, to a Dembele, to a 𝙀𝙬, to an Mbappe, and win the ball back. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. Simple instructions. And you go and you look at this team, wow. Guys, please tell me, please, and I mean this sincerely, let me know in the comments. Maybe I'm doing too much. Maybe I'm overglazing. And listen, it could be that, France go and lose in the semifinals and then we go and say this team was overrated anyways. But it's shocking me how, of course I knew France's team was good and I thought that we had the most talented team. But I go and look at this tournament. France have won every single one of their games. They've only conceded 2 goals. We talk about how good Spain have been, defensively and how they've not conceded a goal yet. 100% true. But I would argue that France had the most difficult group in the group stages. We're one of only, 3 teams to have won every single one of their group stage games. To this point right now, you're going to look at France. France have gone through the knockout stages relatively comfortably. The one game you could say was, a bit more nervy and whatnot was the Paraguay game. And even that, for me, you have to put a massive asterisk there. For me, that Paraguay game, you cannot look at it in any way, shape, or form, and you can't really draw anything from it because Paraguay didn't play football. It was a WWE, UFC, heavyweight world championship bout, but there was anything but football. And even then, Paraguay had 1 shot on target? If that, I'm not even sure they had a single shot on target. This French team is so dominant across every single line. Obviously, offensively, there is no team that even comes to a 10th of what France have, especially at this tournament. You can say Argentina. Argentina is Messi and co. You can go and look at Spain. Spain have not been kicking it off. And even at times, you can say maybe they're the second best. Okay, fine. England, okay, it's Harry Kane and what? Saka's not been crazy. Gordon, okay, he's had opportunities. Bellingham, if he comes in, okay. But France, Kylian Mbappe is on 8 goals and 2 assists at this World Cup. And Dembele is on 5 goals and 2 assists. 𝙀𝙀𝙀, guys, in the past, 5 goals you score 5-6 goals, you're one of the top scorers at the World Cup. Dembele is on 5 goals, 2 assists. He's not even in the top 3. Les gars, c'est une dinguerie comment ils sont forts. This World Cup, in terms of the football, I said it on stream that this is the one tournament where you go and you look at every single big performer, every single big player, all the big nations, for the most part, are turning up. Every single one of them. Yes, of course, you had, Portugal get knocked out, but they got knocked out to a giant. You can say, oh, the Netherlands got knocked out. Okay, but they got knocked out to Morocco, who, is currently, I look here, ranked 7th in the FIFA world rankings. The one bit where I'll go and say, okay, yeah, this is a giant, so to speak, that got knocked out early. It's Germany, right? Losing to Paraguay. And you could say, if you want to go and say, Uruguay getting knocked out relatively early. All right, fine. But apart from that, all the big nations, all the big players have turned up. Mbappe's turned up. Messi's turned up. Dembele's turned up. Alisson turned up. Harry Kane's turned up. Jude Bellingham's turned up. Even you want to go and say, oh, Ronaldo, they got knocked out. Ronaldo has 3 goals at this World Cup. In previous World Cups, 3 goals you're in like the top 7. You're in the top 10 potentially scorers. But going back to this French national team, in goal, more than adequate. One of the best keepers in the tournament, 𝙋𝙊𝘿𝘾𝘼𝙎𝙏, hasn't really been tested at all. Back line, I've got the stat here. Let me go and actually bring it up. So, France, at this point, is yet to concede in the knockout stages. We beat Sweden 3-0. We beat Paraguay 1-0. And now we've beaten Morocco 2-0. So that's what? 6 goals in 3 games, and averaging 2 goals per game. In that time, we've not conceded a single goal. Okay, fine. In that amount of time, we've only had or conceded 4 shots on target. Oh my God. Oh, 𝙎𝙬𝙖𝙶. This time we've only conceded 4 shots on target. And I think most of those shots came in that game against Sweden, because I don't think that Paraguay had a single shot on target. I know Morocco only had 1 shot on target today. And listen, a lot of people are going to go and say, oh, Morocco this, Morocco that. Did Morocco play really well? Probably not. They've definitely played better games. But I think a lot of that simply has to do with there are levels to this. Like, Morocco is undoubtedly a top 10 nation. Look what they went and did to Brazil. And yes, Brazil is not the Brazil, that we once knew, but this is still a very, very, very good Moroccan side. But they came against France and France made them look like fodder. They made them look like fodder. Complete and utter fodder. 4 shots on target conceded throughout the entire knockout stages for France. You've got the best center back pairing, Saliba and Upamecano. The one glaring weak side, I would say, for France is at right back with Jules Koundé, who's not really impressed. Even now, I go and say at left back, I thought Lucadine has been fine. Like, he's been doing the work. Nothing crazy. He's not been one of the best, but he does his job more than good enough. Midfield, Koné, Rabiot, Koné, Tchouaméni, Rabiot, whichever pairing you want to have. Les gars, c'est fou. C'est fou. And people call me crazy when I said France has, I would go and say, one of the best midfields going into this tournament. I think it's because the attack is so crazy, and everybody agrees, having 𝙀𝙬𝙖, Barcola, that you can interchange, having Mbappe, Dembele, Olise, being able to bring on Akliouche, a Cherki in midfield, a Jean-Philippe Mateta even, and knowing that, you have Ekitike, who's having to go and watch this World Cup from home due to an injury. Of course, the step down in quality from how good your attackers are to the midfield is big. But it's just because this is potentially the biggest attacking threat going into World Cup we've ever seen in the history of the game. Ever. Find me another nation that has had so many, even Brazil in 2002. As soon as you take Ronaldo, Rivaldo, Romario, yes, of course, they had good players. They weren't nobodies by any means. But do they have someone like Cherki coming off the bench? A 𝙀𝙬𝙖 or Barcola coming off the bench? Olise, Mbappe, and Dembele, you could legitimately go and say, if France win this World Cup, that could be your podium for the Ballon d'Or. And that is not crazy to say whatsoever. If France win the World Cup, you could legitimately have a full French podium. Mbappe, Olise, Dembele as your podium for the Ballon d'Or. And you say that now, that is not crazy. Wow. Wow. Morocco 1 shot on target. Their first shot on target came in the 83rd minute. The 83rd minute. And again, I feel like because I think Morocco is still one of the best teams in the world, but it just shows you levels. And I think if you're Moroccan, can you really be mad? Like, okay, maybe you wanted to go play a bit more, but it's the French national team. There's some points where you just go and you say, voilà, chapeau l'artiste. There's not much more I can do. And specifically for me, it was talked about, I'm listening here in Canada as well on TSN, and the panelists who were a bunch of ex-players were, dissecting Mbappe's first goal. And they're saying, like, what can the defender really do there? Issa Diop has defended it well, who knows from the under-19s at the Euros in 2016, who played with Mbappe then. he's done everything well. He was relatively tight to him, not so tight to where Mbappe just knocks it past him and, burns him for pace. But he's not so far that you basically give Mbappe a free shot at goal. Mbappe, if you go and you look at the shot, it just ever so slightly swerves right around 𝙎𝙊𝘾𝘼𝙎. And it goes in, it's a perfect shot. It is a perfect shot. There's nothing the keeper can do. There's nothing the defender can do. For me, that is just greatness. And you go and you look at how that was built initially. 𝙎𝙊𝘾𝘼𝙎 takes the ball down excellently, megs the Moroccan midfielder to pass to Mbappe. Mbappe sizes up 𝙎𝙊𝘾𝘼𝙎, bang, 1-0. There's nothing you can do there. At some point, for me, it's that goal. Like it's like there's some goals where you just go and say, you know what, fair enough. It's like Lamine Yamal's goal, for example, against France in the Euros semifinal in 2024. That goal, can you go and you say, maybe you can get a bit tighter to it, maybe you can do this, maybe you can do that? Okay, yes, you can always improve upon something in football, right? If a team scores, it's because more than not, or there's some sort of mistake. But these ones, it's like you've done like 99% of what you were asked to do and what you could have done, and it's just that the other player on the other team is just cracked. Lamine Yamal's goal from 30 yards out against France in the complete top upper 90. There's not much Maignan can do. There's not really much that 𝙎𝙊𝘾𝘼𝙎 can do there. Same way here. What can 𝙎𝙊𝘾𝘼𝙎 do there? It just goes and shows you how frightening this team is, and specifically Mbappe. Wow. Mbappe with France and Mbappe at club level, les gars, il faut en parler, hein? I think that if you just talk about Mbappe in isolation with the French national team, you guys, is it crazy to go and say he's top 5 player of all time already? Is it crazy to say that? If you, I said, remove everything he's done for club team, right? So you can't go and say, oh, he's not won a Champions League, all this. Just take what he's done at the international level with France, being the all-time record goal scorer, having the all-time record amount of assists, being the second highest World Cup goal scorer in only 3 editions, scoring more than 7 goals. He's gone 8 goals now in this World Cup. He got 8 goals at the previous World Cup, and he scored 4 in the first World Cup. This guy's on 20 goals in 20 games at a World Cup. Won the World Cup at 19. In 2022, dropped arguably one of the greatest ever performances this game has ever seen. Is it crazy to go and say that? The one thing you can go and you can take against Mbappe is his Euros. Because at the Euros, but apart from that, Mbappe, even in the way his mannerisms and in the way he conducts himself on the pitch, Mbappe was pressing today in that first half. Mbappe was being a leader. He was rallying his troops. Bro, I know we have this whole Mbappe dictator meme and whatnot, but you know what? Some part of me goes and says, if that's what it takes to win a World Cup, then so be it. Let him be the dictator. Laisse qu'il soit le maréchal. Les gars, he is... I remember when there was sort of the discussions and how it was a bit controversial that he was given the captaincy over Griezmann. And honestly, I probably personally would have said, yeah, give it to Griezmann. He's a leader in the group. He's there. He's been there the longest. He's potentially one of the best players in everything. But now you go back and you look at it. Mbappe now, first and foremost, is one of the old heads in the squad. He's 27 now. You got people like 𝙀𝙀, who's 21. You got 𝙀𝙀𝘾𝘼𝘾, who's 23. You've got 𝙀𝙀𝘾𝘼𝘾, who's 25. A lot of these big players or great players for the national team are younger than him. And you got people like Dembele and Mbappe who are now like old heads within the squad. So it makes sense in terms of like he is a leader and now the experience that he has. But you go and you look at it, they all rally for him. Yes, they don't. I wouldn't say that France go and like they don't die, for Mbappe. Like, Argentines will die for Messi. But I think they all realize that if we want to go and win this, we have to make sure that this man is in the best conditions possible. And that doesn't mean that like everything has to go through him. The thing with France is that it's not the Mbappe show. It's not that give the ball to Mbappe and inshallah, give the ball to Mbappe et si Dieu le veut. It's not that whatsoever. 𝙀𝙀 can create something out of nothing. Dembele can do that. 𝙀𝙀𝘋 can do that. And that's the issue, is that at any moment, a player can have a spark of genius and go and create. You look at the game against Paraguay. It's 𝙀𝙀 goes, player dribbles through 1, 2, 3, 4 players, wins a penalty, bang. 𝙀𝙀𝘋, an insane pass to go and find Mbappe in that first game against Mexico, bang, 1-0. You got Dembele hat trick against Norway, just like that. Like you can maybe stop 1, 2, okay. You can't stop Mbappe, Dembele, 𝙀𝙀, and 𝙀𝙀𝘋. And okay, let's say you manage to stop all of them. You bring one off, you bring on 𝙀𝙀𝘾 for the runs in behind. Les gars, c'est une dinguerie comment ils sont forts. Wow. Let me actually go on to get into some analysis because I've been yapping and rambling for a while now. I just took some notes because I did want to go and say some things here. I thought in the first half, I thought 𝙀𝙀 was the best, attacker. Mbappe obviously won the penalty, missed the penalty. And by the way, let's come back quickly to that penalty. Actually, before we do that, one thing I do want to say, because it would have been talked about if things didn't, go well for France or things were a bit more dubious. The referee today, 𝙀𝙪𝙾𝙼𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬 occasion, and we'll get on to that. But apart from that, I thought the calls were good. I thought he was consistent. I thought he let the game go. There wasn't too chippy either, so there wasn't really an issue there. But going back onto the one issue, and the one thing I did not like or that I really don't understand was the whole penalty situation. Now, again, let me preface by saying this. The fact that Mbappe missed the penalty, he shouldn't be missing a penalty, right? Okay, yes, you can go and say that the time and everything, but okay, he shouldn't be missing. Mbappe is a professional. You can't be doing that. However, I do think that it definitely weighs on the player. And especially now when you look at it, players have nowadays, I think, figured out the routine of where you have, somebody who's not taking the penalty, take the ball, stay in the penalty box. And then, when the ref tells everybody to move away, he gives the ball to the actual penalty taker who goes and takes it. So that happened with Mbappe, no issues. Mbappe places the ball down on the ground, and they called it, and it was 3 minutes and 12 seconds between when Mbappe placed the ball on the penalty spot and when he kicked it. And I think, between when he won the foul, and when the penalty was actually taken. And I think it was a minute and 12 seconds from when he put the ball on the penalty spot to when he shot it. The ref is going and saying, no, okay, the penalty's clear. Then he says, no, you have to wait. Mbappe and Bruno are going and saying that. And then he's like, no, go and take the penalty. I think it messed up. Mbappe talked about, he said that, okay. And I found specifically really interesting is that as a player, he mentioned the fact that he trains or preps himself mentally for situations like this. That obviously the whole thing of, players are going to try to go and get in your head and everything. He says he preps for that. And he said that this is just now a scenario that he would have never thought about, where a penalty is given, he's allowed to take it, he places the ball down, and the ref basically goes and says, no, we're checking with VAR again. And he's like, okay, well then I guess I'll have to make sure to, put that in something as a scenario that I have to account for in the future. And I thought it just goes to show you the mentality that Mbappe has, that the fact that he has the composure, what's the word I'm looking here? The presence of mind, there you go, to go and to be like, okay, yeah, before these things, I know that I have to anticipate that I could find myself in a penalty shootout where, a bunch of players around me. To be thinking of that before it, for me, I think is absolutely insane. So I talked about that, Mbappe's missed penalty, but ultimately, he redeemed himself, misses the easy penalty, we'll go and say, and then scores an absolute worldie. I said, yeah, I thought was the best attacker in the first half, was the one creating the most. I thought, not that the others were bad or anything, but I think he was the most influential. Talked about the fact that France are yet to concede in the knockout stages and have only conceded 4 shots as well. I did talk about the fact with regards to the French midfield, how I go and look at it. Is it crazy to say that's been the best at this World Cup? Because obviously, first and foremost, France played with basically 2 midfielders. Now, if you want to go and consider Ouliss as being the 10 as being the third one, well then, okay, Ouliss has been one of the best players in the world. You can say Spain with Pedri, Rodri, and Dani Olmo. Okay, Dani Olmo's not been better than I wouldn't say Dani Olmo's been better than Ouliss. And then I think Rabiot and Manu Kone have been, or Tchouaméni have been better than Pedri this far. And the only one I would say gets in is Rodri. I think Rodri's been absolutely excellent for Spain thus far. So is it crazy again that I go and say that France have had the best midfield in this tournament thus far? And the final thing I want to talk about, Manu Kone. Wow. Manu Kone, what a player. Oh my goodness. I think now it's causing almost more questions to be asked of Didier Deschamps, because this Manu Kone, Adrien Rabiot works so well. But the problem is that Manu Kone with Tchouaméni also worked well. And Adrien Rabiot with Tchouaméni also worked well. But Manu Kone, le niveau qu'il a affiché. Oh, yeah. Manu Kone. Hey, Nasser, s'il te plaît. I know we don't really need midfielders like that. But, Fabian, he's a bit Asian, he's a bit Spanish. Manu Kone, he's from Paris, played for Paris FC. Oh, voilà, contact la Roma, go contact AS Roma, get him. I don't care. Sometimes, even if it's just to hoard him. What a play. Oh my goodness. Quel joueur. What a player Manu Kone is. Wow. In terms of in the duels, he's good. In terms of winning the ball back, he's good. In terms of progressive carries, he's good. Being strong in the tackle, he's good. Long balls, he's good. This guy is one of the most complete midfielders ever. He's a bit like a João Neves, but a bit bigger and strong. Oh my goodness. Wow, Manu Kone. Wow. I think it was Didier Deschamps that said that he finds that he's a bit underrated. And even like Manu Kone was talking about that. I don't think that, people really appreciate how good I am. For Roma, you're right, bro. You right. Manu Kone, I was not aware of your game. Wow. But it's absolutely insane. But I've said all of this. We've not even gone on and looked at the tactics. Overall, the funny thing is, I remember looking at this during the game. Actually, Morocco finished with more possession, 52% possession to 48% for France. But this is where I think sometimes why going and looking at stats in context is important. A lot of Morocco's possession was sterile possession where they literally just passed it around the back, and France was sort of allowing them to go and do so. And that's where they got a lot of their possession was France's, even though you'd say it's pretty even and they had less even here, you go and you look at it, that possession was really entrenched within the Moroccan half, and it was them basically just asphyxiating Morocco. In terms of XG, 3.69 XG. 3.69 XG to 0.14. Even if you go and say, oh, France got a penalty, the XG of a penalty is 0.7. So even if you remove that penalty, France was still expected to go and score 3 goals. And this is where I go and I say that this 2-0 scoreline is flattering. And not flattering for France, flattering to Morocco. Because in that first half alone, it could have been easily 3-0. I'm thinking of that 𝙎𝙬𝘾𝘼𝘆𝘾𝑗𝑎 chance. There's Luka Dean who hits the crossbar. You have 𝙬𝙬 who goes and forces an excellent save out of Bono. There's obviously the missed penalty from Mbappe, and that's only in the first half. Wow. 22 shots, 8 shots on target, 28 touches in the opposition box, 6 big chances created, and 6 big chances missed. That is to say that the 2 goals that France has scored, Mbappe's and Dembele's, were low XG chances. I'm looking here on FOTMob specifically for France. I mean, no player is below what, 7.3? Saliba has the lowest rating with a 7.3. French's average rating is a 7.5. 𝙬𝙬 with 8.4. Ølise with a 7.7. Dembele with the 8.3. And you could argue Ølise is probably the worst of the front 4. And he still got a 7.7. Everyone else, 𝙬𝙬 got an assist on that first Mbappe goal. Mbappe missed a penalty, but got an assist and got a goal. And Dembele scored. Wow. And the final thing I want to go and say before I round up the video, I'm looking here, we're at over like 23 minutes now, is I know this is his last tournament, but Didier Deschamps is criminally underrated. He took the helm of the French national team, I believe, in 2012, late 2012. And his first tournament was the 2014 World Cup. Quarterfinals, lost to the eventual champions in Germany. In 2016, he went all the way to the final in 8 home Euros and lost to Portugal. In 2018, obviously won the World Cup with France and Russia. In 2020, which is probably, you'd say, the biggest blip thus far in his career, in 2020/2021, they lost. They got knocked out in the round of 16 at the Euros. In 2021, in that actual year, they went on to go and win the Nations League. In 2022, went to the final of the World Cup, in a World Cup, mind you, where during the course of the tournament, they lost Pogba, Kanté, Benzema, and Nkunku Kimpembe. 5 key major players all lost, and he still managed to go to the final and was a penalty away from going and repeating a World Cup. In 2020, in a World Cup that you'd go and say was a poor one for France, France got knocked out to the eventual champions in Spain in the semifinals in a game that finished 2-1, and in a game where it wasn't crazy that France could have gone and equalized. Don't get me wrong, Spain was still the better team, and Spain were the best team in the competition. But for a bad tournament for Didier Deschamps, he managed to get to the semifinals of the Nations League. And now, the 2026 World Cup. This guy has now, for the 3rd successive time, made it to a semifinal. The earliest he's been knocked out in a World Cup is the quarterfinals. Whereas you've got countries like Spain who've been knocked out in the group stages since his tenure, who've been knocked out in the round of 16. You've got Germany who've on multiple occasions have failed to even get past, the group stages. You've got countries that failed to even qualify in Italy. Didier Deschamps, the earliest he's been knocked out was the quarterfinals in 2014 to Germany, a very good German side in a very tight game, and in a game where, again, you face the eventual champions. And maybe this is me. There's a part of me that goes and says, hey, do we really need to let him go? Does it really have to be the last dance? As I know he's officially, his contract ends and whatnot, but you know the old saying that goes and says the grass is not necessarily greener on the other side. There's no guarantee that Zidane is going to be able to go and replicate what Deschamps done. And what is replicating what Deschamps done is what? Routinely getting to semifinals, finals of major competitions. The one bit you can maybe criticize him is that there's maybe a lack of silverware. He's only got really the World Cup and a Nations League to his name in that tenure. But routinely making it to semifinals, finals, and everything is insane. Absolutely insane. So franchement, chapeau Didier Deschamps. But with all that said, guys, I'm going to, as I close off the video, le boulot n'est pas terminé, faut rester concentré. We've got a semifinal to go and play. Forget what I said. We do not play a semifinal. We win a semifinal. Whether it's Belgium, we got revenge, or not revenge. We're going and running it back from what we did in 2018. And if it's Spain, then we got a whole lot of revenge. 2024 Euros, 2025 Nations League, 2012 Euros as well for me. I remember that for those who were there. But guys, thank you guys so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you to everybody that was in during the live stream. And thank you guys for all the love and support recently. We recently hit 75,000 subscribers on YouTube, and we've hit over 8,000 followers on Instagram. So guys, thank you so much. And also over 45K on TikTok. So thank you guys all so much for the love and support and following, me on the socials recently. It truly, truly means a lot to me. And hopefully this is only the beginning of bigger and better things to come. It's been an absolute pleasure. And remember, stay safe, stay kind, and stay blessed. Godspeed.